beautiful people, welcome to Remi's Fashion. My name is Remi. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a bust cage for your corset. So let's get started. The materials you will need are, I have my bra cup patterns here that I have drafted in my tutorial on how to draft a corset. If you have not seen that video, I will put the link in the cards above and also in the description box below. So go and see that video and you will know how I got these bra cups. You will also need a fabric. I'm going to be using this Ankara fabric. You will also need lining. You will also need interfacing. This is my hairstay interfacing. This is what I'm going to be using for this tutorial. You will need hemming gum, either the white one or the black one, depending on what you have available. You will need a bust ham so that when you finish sewing, you can press your seams open. You will also need Regeline boning. This is the Regeline boning I'm going to be using for my bust caging. And then you will need a steam iron. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to cut out my bra cups on my fabric and lining. For the lining, I'm going to be cutting out two. I will use one set for the bust caging and then I will use the other set to do the finishing of our bra cups. So I'm going to cut out the lining and then I'm going to add 1/2 inch seam allowance all around this pattern, both of them. Okay, like I said, I'm going to be cutting out an extra one, which I'm going to be using for the finishing. Cutting out my pattern pieces, this is what I have. So for the main fabric, I put stay and I tripled it. This one I just ironed on interfacing, and then this one I used wadding. I want it to be firm, I want it to be full, so I used wadding. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place right side to right side, fabric to fabric, and I will sew using my 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'll do the same thing for this one, and then for this one as well, I will sew using 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to go to the sewing machine now and then I'll sew that. After sewing, this is what I have. See the inside? See my inside? When you turn them right side up, this is what I have. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to iron my seams open. For this one, I'm going to iron it open and then I'm going to reduce the bulk, okay? So that when we are doing the caging, a bone can fit in the middle and cover up this line. So for this ones, I'm going to notch and iron the seam open. So make sure to use your bust ham or tailor's ham, okay? So I'm going to open and I'm going to iron it flat and then I'll reduce the bulk for this one. So this is what I have, okay? So I have the 3 of them all ready to go. I have trimmed the excess on this one. This is the one we're going to be sketching the cage. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to draw the cage on here before we sew in the boning. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure 1/2 inch from the top. That's going to be my sewing allowance all the way, and I'm going to make it curvy. I'm not going to make it straight. So I'm just going to follow the shape and draw 1/2 inch sewing allowance all round. Make sure it is not straight, it's curved. It follows the shape of our cup. And then I'll do 1/2 inch on the side as well. I'm just going to trace it out with a marker so that you can see clearly what I'm doing. Okay, so after doing this first one, this is what it looks like. Make sure that your sketch is curved and not straight. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this box into two and make sure one of them is going through the bust point. Okay, so from here to here, I can just eyeball it. And then I'll make sure one is running through the bust point. I'll draw this out as well. So after doing this, I'm now going to draw a curvy line from the middle of here all the way down and from here all the way down. So this is my sketch. The next thing I'm going to do is I'll take my Regilene. I'm going to place it on here. I'm going to sew on top from here to here, just at the top. Okay. Once I've done that, I'm going to do on here. I will take this one. I'll put it inside underneath the first one I sew. And then I'm going to sew like this. I'll make it curve. And then I will sew. Make sure it's curved while you're sewing. And then I'll sew up to here. And then I'm going to place it underneath. Once I've done that, I'll continue. And then I will do the middle. I will use my bone, cover this middle so that we can have a neat finish. Okay, so let's go to the sewing machine now while we sew in our bust cage. I'm going to sew at the top like this to this end, and I will stop here before the 1/2 inch seam allowance. So the first one I'm going to sew now is this. So before the 1/2 inch, you stop. So I'm going to leave this now. So after sewing the first one, this is what it looks like. Can see? So now I'm going to sew the next one. I'm going to tuck it in underneath like this. You can sew round if you have the very thin, flexible bone, or you can sew till here and then you cut it. Okay? So let's sew this next one. After sewing these sides, this is what it looks like. So the next one I'm going to sew now is the middle one. I'm going to sew the middle one from here all the way to the down part. So this is the middle one. After sewing it, this is what it looks like. And this is the right side. The next one I'm going to sew now, I'm going to sew this ones across. And then I will sew this at the top. And then we'll be done with our caging. So I'm going to sew the bottom one now. See what it looks like? I've sewn the bottom ones. So the only ones left now are the vertical ones. So I'm going to sew this one and then I will sew the second one. And then I'll show you what it looks like. So this is what it looks like. So I have just this one now to sew. I've tucked it in top and bottom. So I'm just going to sew it all the way down on both sides. After sewing our bust cage, this is what it looks like. This is the wrong side and this is the right side. After sewing the cage on my bust cup, this is what we have. This is the right side and this is the wrong side. The next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my main fabric. I'm going to cover it up. I'm going to place it on top of my bust cage. I'm going to use hemming glue. So I'm going to put hemming glue on top of this one like this. And then I will place this on top and use my bust ham to iron it so that they can stick together. So this is my hemming glue now. I'm just going to line it on top. Then I'll place my main fabric on top like this, and then I'll take my bust ham, I'll place it on top, and I will use my iron to melt the hemming gum so that they can stick together. So after joining both pieces together, this is what I have. So it's all joined together, okay? So we have this one bust cup. I'm going to remove this 1/2 inch wadding because it's actually really bulky. So it's easier for you to sew this to your top. So you can pull it off, just the edge. I'm just going to cut it off. So after cutting it out, this is what it looks like. This way it's easier to sew. I've reduced the bulk from my bust cup, okay? So this is what it looks like. So this side can be sewn easily to a top. So after doing this, the next thing I'm going to do now is to cover up the caging. So you take the second set of lining you did. So I'm going to place it right side facing right sides. So I'm going to sew it together using the 1/2 inch seam allowance I left. Once you sew it together, turn it over and then sew the bottom closed. So I'm going to go and do that now, and then I will show you what it looks like. So I sew the main fabric and the lining together, right side facing right side, just like I said earlier. And then I sew the top. You can understitch, putting all the seam allowances on your lining, and then put it over, and then I sew the bottom closed. And this is what we have. This is the right side and this is the wrong side. So you can use this for your corset tops. So this is what my caged bra cups looks like. So with these, we have come to the end of this tutorial. I hope this video tutorial was helpful. Share, subscribe, like, and put on your notification bell so that every time I upload new tutorials, you'll be the first to be notified. If you have any questions or suggestions, I'll be in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next tutorial. Take care and God bless.